So here are all my tools laid out. I've categorized them into groups according to their function. So what I'm going to do right now is take you through each group and explain to you what I use each group for. And the first group we have coming up is the rake tools. If you look at the rake tools, you'll notice that the ends of these tools have teeth or notches cut into them. What these tools are mainly used for is the subtractive process in sculpting. They're very good tools to use for smoothing out large areas with. The way I use them is in short circular motions. Generally, I use them from the larger ones to the finer ones. And these are my flat wooden tools. I like tools like these with a rounded end to them, where one side is flat or the other side is like a rounded curved surface. These tools are actually the first ones I reach for after my initial stage where I only use my hands. I have this opinion with sculpting that the longer you use only your hands, the more life and spontaneity your sculpture will have. There's an organic quality in the immediacy of using your own hands. The more distance you put between your hand and the clay sculpture, the more that sculpture is going to just look mechanical and lose that human touch. So I try to do as much and as far as possible, go as far as possible with just my hands before reaching for a tool. But the first tools I do grab are these, would be these wooden ones, because there's something about the bluntness of them. There's a softness to it that, for the first tools I used, are very helpful in keeping a spontaneous feel to the sculpture. My next group of tools are my loop tools. These are tools I use to really start getting things smooth after the stage where I use the rake tools. Using the rake tools leaves rake marks, and these are the tools I use to clean up those rake marks with. The two on top I made myself by inserting a loop of music wire or part of a keychain into a brass tube and crimping it. The one on the bottom is one I bought from a store, but the pointed end that you see is one that... Now that's a tool, the first tool I reach for when I start throwing character lines into a sculpture. That's a very handy tool for detailing with. And these tools are the ones I keep until the very end for doing detail with. Fine detail. You can see I have the first and third one from the top are very, very small loop tools. And the one at the bottom is a hook. That's an extremely useful tool as well. I mainly use that for doing things like wrinkles around the eyes and cracks around the mouth, cracks in the lips. And it's also good for smoothing things out and cleaning things up, getting things crisp. Here are my brushes. After the stage where I use the loop tools to clean up the rake marks, these brushes are what I use to get those loop marks clean. And the two on the bottom are basically round sable brushes where I've cut the tip off to create this blunt, flat end. If I dip those in 99% isopropyl alcohol and scrub my sculpture in a circular motion, that's how I clean up my tool marks. The one on top, the large fan brush, is good for dipping it in alcohol and sweeping crumbs away. Here is a set of calipers, which is a tool that I don't use as often as I probably should. They're mostly used, most useful for when you have to replicate an object, like if you're sculpting a portrait bust, you use this tool to transfer your measurements and distances. But it's also handy, even if you're sculpting something out of your head or from a design on paper. It's handy for getting the distances on both sides of a head symmetrical. And so here are all my tools again, and the best way I can explain how I use these tools is if you just watch as I sculpt in the demo and see why, where, and how I use each set.